When we were Jehovah's Witnesses, I would have these horrible nightmares, and I would wake up screaming, and Eric would always have his hand over my mouth. And I was always dreaming I was going to be killed, and somebody was choking me or something, and there would be his hand. And that and he said I used to warm up. He would hear, and he'd be so scared. Well, anyway, that went on and on and on all the time we were Jehovah's Witnesses. So then when we resigned, I didn't have any nightmares, didn't connect anything until one night him and Bill went to a convention. Remember they snuck into that convention? Yeah, special meeting to hear that 1914 was the same as 1975. They used the same excuse. Anyway, and that night Eric came home and he played the tape because they recorded it. And that night I had that horrible, horrible dream from listening to that tape. The same thing, woke up screaming, you know, he has his hand over my mouth. So I learned, then I would go out and serve, not in service, but to go and talk to people and witness to them, and I'd be fine. But if we ever got deeply into the Watchtower material, that night I'd have that horrible nightmare again. And so one night I learned really quick, I screamed out to Jesus, and after that I never had him again. But I also learned that whenever I touched the Watchtower material to study, or anything like that, because I'd have to study it in order to prepare books and whatever we were writing and stuff, that before I went to sleep, to give it to Jesus, because that spirit, it gets in you and it causes a horrible reaction. So anyway, I thought I'd share that. All right.
It's wonderful, and we all rejoice that people walk in here like that, and there's so many people that don't walk in here, that never have the courage. And I mean, I was talking to Chris earlier, and he gets, what'd you say, 12, maybe a dozen emails a week from people on your website. I get some here and there from people, and probably everybody else here that's in any kind of, Bob's nodding his head, I see, and we get all these emails, and I'm willing to guess that for every person that walks in here, there's probably 100 that will email or phone call somebody, and for every person that emails or phone calls, there's probably another 100 that are just sitting out there and reading this stuff and listening and mentally working their way out of the Watchtower like we all did. They talked about feeling, both Dave and Elaine talked about feeling uncomfortable in the Kingdom Hall, and I know I did through the last several years. It was, in my case, I know what it was. It was the fact that I wanted to go there and hear about the Bible, and I wanted to hear about Jesus. And what I heard a lot of was the organization breaking its arm, patting itself on the back. And it just, we understand this, and I think it's important that we keep these people in prayer. That's just basically all I wanted to say. There's a young couple that was planning to be here, and I'm not sure what happened. I haven't heard from them in about a month, but the last I heard was that they were planning on coming. And it was a situation where a young woman who was a Christian and her fiance was involved with the witnesses. And he had an ex-wife with a child who was also with the witnesses. And at last that I had heard, he had broken away, and the young woman, his ex-wife, who had been actually studying, not baptized, she also was going to stop her study. As a result of the efforts of this young woman. So that was about a month ago, and she said that she and her fiance were going to come to the conference. Obviously I haven't seen them here, but certainly if we could keep them in prayer. Their names are Bridget and John. I checked with Sylvan to make sure we're not still broadcasting before I mention the names.
No, it doesn't broadcast.
If you're recording this somehow, please take those names out.
I will.
I just wanted to mention them and lift them up.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that we'd love to have see here, but you know, the Lord brings the ones that He wants to have here, and so that's why it keeps going.
I'm going to talk.
You have your own microphone.
Now, I just want to say, you were talking about people afraid to come out and things. This is about 3 years ago when that elder called. Do you remember that? About 3 years ago, a couple weeks before the convention, I got a phone call from an elder. And I don't know where he got our name from. Our name, you know, different places. And He said, I know you go to the Blue Mountain Christian Retreat. I got your name from blah, blah, blah. And he said, I'm having some real problems. I'm an elder in the church, in the witness in the Kingdom Hall. He said, I have to talk fast, and I got to get this out, but if my wife comes in the room, I'm going to hang up. And he said, I'm an elder. I know there's things going on, and they're not right. I don't know what to do. If I leave, I'm going to lose my family, my wife, and he hung up. So, you know, this was, I don't know, there was no caller ID or something. So maybe it was 5 years ago or something. I don't know. Anyway, or you that already had it. Push the button so you can't get the name. About a half hour later, he called back. He said, I'm back. She's gone. I'm really struggling here. He goes, I can see this. And he told me some different things that were going on in the congregation. And he says, I want to come. I want to come to the retreat. He said, I can't, but I can't. I don't know what to do. He said, I know this isn't right, but I'm going to lose my family. And he was just a nervous wreck. And then pretty soon he hung up again. And I wanted to tell him, well, you know, let me do something. And then he called back the third time. He goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. He's here, I don't know what I'm going to do. He's here, I want to come because I know there's something wrong here. He goes, but, and he just went on. I can't remember everything he said. But just to show you that there are people out there that maybe now they'll be viewing this because he couldn't get the courage to come out. But he was just a nervous wreck. He said, I'm an elder. And he said, I know it's not right. I see things. He goes, but if I leave, my whole family's gone. It was really bad for him. So I was hoping maybe, you know, if he ever sees this, you know, let me know. But anyway, just to let you know, the elders, there are a lot of elders that are probably struggling just like this one is, but afraid.
Definitely. Ruth Ann, we have a question. Do the Mormons shun you?
They just don't have anything in common with us. When we first got out of the Mormons, they tried to, well, it's a long story, our testimony, and when we started finding things out, they were really upset with us for looking into things that we shouldn't be looking into. When we finally went to the bishop and explained to him that there's no Quakers on the moon, and he said, you got to look at the overall picture. And that's when we had Lisa by that time, I think. We were out of it, but we were still trying to communicate. They didn't really shun us like the Jehovah's Witnesses do, but the first Christmas we were out, they actually brought us a Christmas stocking. But then after that, they just slowly faded away because they had nothing in common with us. And if you're Mormons and you get out, you go to the lowest hell there is. We don't get our own planet, you know. But you know, it's not like the Jehovah's Witnesses, though, where they absolutely just, you know, they tried to bring us back into the fold. So.
I got a ton of just scattered thoughts. That's the way my brain works, anyway. First of all, so thank you for doing this. What a labor of love that is.
Amen.
Who knows what's going to happen with this being broadcast live on the internet? I mean, you know, if I was, you know, still an elder in the organization, I'd have been all over that. And, you know, just keep that whole thing in prayer. It's really neat to see how the ex-witnesses have really put technology to good use. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff that we can do. Those of us who are geeks get together and discuss this thing from time to time. But some other thought, Mighty Fortress is our God. Every time I sing that now, I go back a couple years to a men's ministry thing I did. We sang that as a closing song. Imagine that with 1,000 guys belting it out. It was powerful. And the other line of the song, it's funny, I can't sing a lick. You know, maybe my glorified body will have better vocal cords. But we'll join the everlasting throng. You know, we get to do that forever. That's just amazing. And the other thing, you know, I don't know if it's just me, but this one is, this conference has just been extraordinary. You know, I mean, they're all good, and I guess they're all extraordinary, but they're just miracles. You know, Dave, miracle. Elaine, miracle. Yeah. We're all miracles here. It's amazing that God in His grace, you know, brought us all out. Yeah. And I always think of James, you know, consider it all joy, my brothers, when you meet with various trials. The trials that each of us have been through make where we are now that much sweeter.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.